In the sunlit plains of Idoma, a small Nigerian village known for its vibrant festivals and bustling markets, the villagers often gathered to share stories, trade goods, and gossip. Amidst the lively streets and the rhythmic pounding of yam in wooden mortars was a young woman named Amara, who was no stranger to the whispers and stares of her fellow villagers. Born with a cleft lip, Amara's face bore a visible scar that the villagers never let her forget. In a place where physical appearance was often seen as a reflection of spiritual favor, her condition was regarded by many as a curse. Children giggled behind her back, and adults avoided her at gatherings, whispering cruelly about her misfortune. Her parents, Mama Ngozi and Papa Ikenna, had always reassured her that she was more than her appearance. They told her she was intelligent, kind, and destined for something great. But no amount of love from her family could shield her from the sharp words of others. Each day, as Amara carried cassava or fetched water from the river, she braved the ridicule of those who saw her as less than human. Broken Smile, they called her. Unmarriageable. But Amara never showed her pain, keeping her head down and her tears hidden from the world. Life in Idoma revolved around its market, where women sold baskets of plantains, yams, and spices, and men bartered over livestock. Amara often accompanied her mother to sell woven baskets and cassava. Despite her skill at weaving and her warm interactions with customers, she was rarely treated kindly. One afternoon, as she bent over to adjust the baskets on display, a group of boys began mocking her from the shade of a nearby tree. "Look at her! Who would ever marry someone like that?" one said, laughing loudly. "She's cursed," another added. "Maybe she should just stay hidden at home." Amara's hands trembled as she tried to ignore them, but the sting of their words pierced her heart. When she returned home that evening, her mother noticed the sadness in her eyes. "Amara, my child," Mama Ngozi said gently, pulling her daughter close. "You are more than their words. Do not let them define you." "But Mama," Amara whispered, tears streaming down her face, "why was I made this way? Why can't I be like the other girls?" Mama Ngozi wiped her daughter's tears. "God made you exactly as you are for a reason. One day you'll see your worth, and so will they." The following week, Idoma was abuzz with news. Obinna, the nephew of the village chief, had returned from Abuja, where he had been working as a civil engineer. Tall, charismatic, and worldly, Obinna was everything the villagers admired. Many saw his return as a chance for the village to prosper further, especially with the upcoming Yam Festival, a grand celebration of harvest and community. Obinna's arrival stirred excitement, particularly among the young women of Idoma, who dreamed of catching his eye. He was polite to all, but his focus seemed to be on reconnecting with the village and understanding its traditions. Unlike others, Obinna had a sharp eye for detail and a curiosity that set him apart. One morning, as Amara fetched water from the river, she stumbled on a loose rock, and her clay pot shattered into pieces. Frustrated, she knelt to gather the shards, muttering under her breath. "Are you hurt?" a voice asked. Startled, Amara looked up to see Obinna standing before her. His dark eyes held a warmth she was unaccustomed to. His simple attire and friendly smile made him approachable, yet she hesitated to respond. "I'm fine," she said quietly, keeping her gaze down. Obinna crouched beside her. "Let me help." "No," she said quickly, her voice sharper than intended. I can manage." He tilted his head, studying her for a moment. Then, without a word, he began helping her collect the pieces. "Do you often carry such heavy loads alone?" he asked conversationally. Amara shrugged. "It's what I do." Before she could say more, a villager nearby called out, "Obinna, you shouldn't waste your time. That girl isn't worth it." Amara flinched, her cheeks burning with humiliation. But Obinna turned to the man, his expression firm. "Is that how we treat each other here?" he asked, his tone calm but pointed. The villager looked away, muttering under his breath. Obinna turned back to Amara and smiled. "Don't mind him. Some people speak before they think. For the first time in years, someone had defended her. Over the following weeks, Obinna and Amara crossed paths often. He sought her out during his walks through the village, asking about her life, her work, and her thoughts on the upcoming festival. Amara, initially guarded, found herself opening up to him. "You're different," she said one day as they sat by the river. "You treat people with respect, even those like me." Obinna frowned. "What do you mean, those like you?" "You're intelligent, kind, and hard-working. That's what matters." His words left her stunned. No one had ever spoken to her that way. For the first time, she began to see herself through his eyes, not as someone broken, but as someone whole. As the Yam festival approached, Obinna took charge of the preparations, involving the entire village. He insisted that everyone's voice be heard, including Amara's. Though reluctant at first, she began sharing ideas for decorations and activities. Her suggestions impressed many, even those who had once mocked her. "She has a sharp mind," one elder remarked during a planning meeting. "I never noticed before." Amara's confidence grew with each passing day. She worked alongside Obinna, crafting decorations and organizing events. The more time they spent together, the deeper their bond became. On the night of the festival, the village was alight with lanterns and the sound of drums. Women danced in colorful wrappers, men shared stories by the fire, and children chased each other with wild laughter. Amara stood near the bonfire, her face illuminated by the warm glow. She wore a simple yet elegant dress that Mama Ngozi had sewn for her, and for the first time she felt beautiful. Obinna approached her, his gaze unwavering. "Amara," he said softly, "you've brought life to this festival, just as you've brought light to my life." Her breath caught. "Obinna, I see you," he continued, taking her hand. "Not the way others do, but for who you truly are. And I love you." Tears welled in her eyes as she realized he meant every word. For so long, she had believed herself unworthy of love, but here was a man who saw her worth. News of Obinna's affection for Amara spread quickly. While some villagers whispered in disbelief, others began reflecting on their behavior. At the festival's closing ceremony, Obinna addressed the crowd. "Amara has shown me the strength and beauty of this village," he said. "She is a woman of courage and kindness, and I am honored to stand by her side." The crowd fell silent, and then, one by one, the villagers began to applaud. Many approached Amara afterward, offering apologies for their past cruelty. Though hesitant, she forgave them, knowing that her worth was no longer tied to their opinions. Amara and Obinna's union marked a turning point for Idoma. Together, they worked to uplift the marginalized, creating opportunities for those who had been overlooked. Amara became a symbol of resilience and hope, inspiring others to see beyond appearances. Years later, as she stood beside Obinna, watching the village children play, Amara felt a deep sense of peace. The pain of her past had transformed into a strength that carried her forward. She was no longer the girl defined by her scars, but a woman defined by her courage and love.